Off point for our next guest. Let's bring in Republican Senator Joni Ernst of Iowa. And Senator, welcome to the studio.
Yeah, thank you.
You are our first in-person guest, which we really appreciate it. We've heard a lot from government officials, so I don't want to bring in this long sound from Chris Wallace and Alejandro Mayorkas from the weekend. But he suggested, Mayorkas did, that at least 12,000 of these migrants who are down in Del Rio have been released into the United States. What's your reaction to that?
Well, I'm extremely concerned about it, again, because we do have Haitians being released into the United States. Will they return for a court hearing? That is the big question. We do know that there are another 20,000 plus that are in Colombia that will likely be headed to the border as well. And this will continue going forward until this administration secures the border.
Senator, hey, it's Sandra here in New York. I wish you could dig into what we just heard there. Cyclical challenges is the way Jen Psaki just labeled the crisis, the catastrophe at our southern border. Obviously coming on the heels of what we just heard from Secretary Mayorkas over the weekend. She referenced surges at the border, obviously back in 2019, 2014. But we know the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, we are seeing unprecedented levels of migrants crossing the southern border. So how can the White House continue to, I don't know if you think they're ignoring or not properly addressing, but to label this a cyclical challenge, this moment at the border?
Truly unbelievable, Sandra. This is a debacle, yet another one of the crises created by President Biden and this administration. During the campaign, there was open encouragement of people to flow to the southern border of the United States, and their unwillingness to secure the border has created, again, this challenge that we see with thousands and thousands upon thousands of illegal immigrants coming to the southern border. So what do they need to do? They need to secure it. They need to continue with many of the policies that were put into place under the past administration, like the Remain in Mexico policy. All of these things need to be followed up on. Joe Biden hasn't been to the border at all, and Kamala Harris barely touched ground there. So they need to go see firsthand what is going on. It is a humanitarian crisis, one that is devastating, and to continue to encourage people to flow to our southern border with the promise of entering into the United States is absolutely ridiculous. We cannot sustain this.
Senator, the message repeated many times by the Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas, is the border is not open. Don't make the journey. It will not succeed. But 12,000 people who were just released into this country with notices to report, not even notices to appear, are saying it worked for me and for those thousands, tens of thousands of people who had their eyes set on the southern border of the United States. What is the message that sends to them?
That is a message that come to the United States. We'll do a quick survey of you and then release you into the United States. And we know from past experiences that many of those that are even given a notice to report, they don't show up at their court date. They are just free to roam through the United States. And these folks don't even have a court date. So it is an encouragement of people to show up. We're not prepared to handle this level of migration coming from the southern border. And to Jen Psaki's point just a few moments ago, that Republicans do want to see a solution to this. The solution is first secure the border. We know that any changes to immigration, they don't matter. They don't matter when you have a porous border. And that's exactly what this administration is encouraging.
Senator, our own Jackie Heinrich there at the tail end of her questioning of Jen Psaki asked about perhaps plans to bolster the southern border rolled into these massive policy proposals that we're seeing on the part of this White House. But to your point, she said Republicans, they're just offering talking points. So how do you respond to her? She says Republicans aren't offering real solutions.
Unbelievable, again, because during the Trump administration, we did have solutions. And those solutions, because the Democrats wouldn't work with us in the last administration, it was left up to executive order. But through a number of President Trump's executive orders, we were able to find consensus with Mexico and agreements which did stem the tide of illegal immigrants coming to our southern border. This administration on day one did away with the Remain in Mexico policy. And that did encourage more people to come to the United States, knowing that they would be let loose, again, without a date to report, in the United States. So how do we stem the tide? We go back to the past era and their administration goals, and that is to stem the tide and secure the border.
Another big issue, Senator, is Afghanistan and answers as to what happened there in the disastrous pullout. You are on the Armed Services Committee tomorrow morning, 9:30. The Secretary of Defense, General Mark Milley, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and CENTCOM Commander General Frank McKenzie will be there to answer questions. What do you want, without giving too much away, what do you want to ask them?
Well, certainly, John, what we want to find out is, did the president really know and understand the ramifications of the withdrawal? What was the advice that was given by our top military commanders to the president? And was it censured basically by his political advisement team? So what were the ramifications to not only those that were serving in uniform in Afghanistan, the civilians that we had on the ground in Afghanistan, and of course, the innocent Afghans that had stood by our side for the past 20 years? We want to know who knew what, when, and why were those decisions made.
Senator, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much.
Can I just say it's great to have you in the studio.
It is great to be in studio.
You are our first post-COVID. So
thank you so much.
A little bit of back to normal for us.
Back to normal.
And feeling so good, right? More now on the